All right, guys, welcome back to the Hold the Standard podcast. We have a very special guest today, a repeat guest, someone near and dear to my heart, Dr. Cara Miller. We're going to attempt on this episode to talk about something we've sort of, I don't want to say we've made up, but we've given a name to, which could be this idea of developmental friendship. And in our small circle, many of you have been curious about our relationship, which, for a bit of background, began in college. When I was an undergrad, I did a private study with Dr. Miller in the leadership school at the University of San Diego, and that led to a deep learning that turned into a deep friendship. And our roles have morphed over the years. I think we've really navigated that in an interesting way, a way that tends to spark curiosity amongst the people in our lives. And it's definitely grown me. Cara is a teacher and mentor to me. And as we get into this episode, I have to mention this sort of profound note. Cara's mentor, Bill Torbert, the godfather of a concept called action inquiry, passed away hours after we recorded this. And so in some ways, there's this massive loss of an incredible, powerful, influential human being in her life and the lives of many others. And Cara is sort of that for me in a lot of ways. And so I just want to honor Dr. Torbert in a way that I hope our relationship, Cara and I's relationship, can sort of honor a similar connection that they've had. And so I hope that this gleans something interesting for you all. I really feel that as much as we try to work through and name what it might be to be in a developmental friendship, I just hope for something like this for everyone. And it could open up a way of being that drives your development forward. And thank you for being here and listening to this. So without further ado, my good friend and colleague, Dr. Cara Miller. Thank you for being here, Cara. We're sitting here together at the gym. It's a quiet moment at the gym, which is rare because it's Sunday afternoon, and we've just finished the Leadership Laboratory Global Gathering yesterday. Cara, you came up from San Diego. You're clapping.
I feel really proud of the effort, and I feel really proud of the result. And
yeah, it was cool. It was cool. And you were a big you don't want me to say this, but you are a big part of the content and concept of what Leadership Laboratory became, but then also specifically the relationships. You're here as very important. Johan, our speaker, came in from Denmark. The reason why I know Johan is through you and our trip to Morocco under the guidance of Johan and some others out in the Sahara Desert. And so, yeah, I guess just for the listeners, we're on the back end of a big weekend of folks coming into town, talking about adult development, getting together, a little bit of fellowship. We had some nice breakfast this morning. And frankly, we are here to attempt a conversation around this thing that we're sort of calling developmental friendship. And yeah, I mean, it organically started going off at brunch as well. So we're kind of flowing on this right now. And I kind of want to, we said that I will take the role of framing up some of this, but essentially I do view this episode as a unique one, not just because this isn't your first time on the show and we know each other very well, but we're sort of mutually working through this live.
yeah,
And I think that might be an interesting thing to bring people along,
for sure.
you know? So I guess let's just start with, what are we trying to frame up when we say developmental friendship, and I guess we can work through it together. Like, as I say those words, you just tried to define it for a group of 20 people at a breakfast table, but let's just try that again. So when we talk about developmental friendship, what is that, do we think? You're up.
If we had the answer, like, we wouldn't be here. We'd just be celebrating it. We'd have it on a t-shirt.
Yeah. We'll make a t-shirt about anything around here. So
that's true. Yeah. I mean, I think I'm watching my hands kind of open because I don't think it is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't have a definition in a traditional way, but we know that the developmental life is one where you've done a really good job of setting out kind of the foundations of a developmental life, which are, we're looking for our edges, we're experiencing our limitations, and we're inviting ourselves there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lifetime of work to see the places where we want to go, or the people that we want to become, or the capacities that we want to be able to practice, and seeing them as sort of just beyond us infinitely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that journey is one that not everybody's on in an intentional way. And so are there friends on the way in that journey that are uniquely as devoted as we are to our development and our yearnings for capacity and for quality and for moving past our limitations? Are there people on the earth that yearn for that as much as we do, and that would actually co-yearn for it with us? So is there somebody in you who is really pulling for my development as a person and committed to discovering like what the things are that your companionship enables for me in that journey? And I think that sounds kind of like a dream,
right?
And like a dreamy thing. And yet I would say that I've tasted it. Like, I've smelled it. I've enjoyed it. I've witnessed it. And I think more than I've enjoyed it and witnessed it in me, I've had the actually deeper enjoyment of participating in it for others, and in this conversation for you. And so developmental friendship maybe is like the shared yearning for each other's becoming.
That's pretty distilled down. Yeah.
Didn't practice
like
it,
that.
so let's play.
Yeah. Well, I think early on, let's comment a little bit on some of the environmental reasons why this conversation might be interesting. Okay. So I think that's helpful because a couple caveats. I'm always big on caveats, which is, I don't know what that is about me, but a couple caveats here. One is part of why we chose to have this conversation is in part an external feedback thing, like specifically people being like, hey, what's going on? Like, what's your guys' deal? So it's like, that's a nudge. That's maybe a confirmation of like, maybe there's something here. I also do want to do the caveat, and I think you would reflect this back, of like, what we're not trying to do on this podcast is be like, we have nailed it, and come on over to the nailed it zone. That's not it either. It's not this like self-aggrandizing thing. It's kind of a public riff of we're workshopping this, Well,
which I will say, you are generous in your life. You have a pattern of doing that. So you don't wait for the polished thing. I mean, it's one of the things I admire about you, or that I aspire to practice because of you. And that is like, don't wait for the finished thing to invite others to witness it happening.
Yeah. The ship it thing.
Yeah.
Shipping it,
ship it. Yeah. And that's lovely. And when you've done that in the past, I can think of a couple illustrations, but maybe we can offer those later to work with. But when you've done that in the past in a generous way, people have, with me, okay, so when you've done it in the past with me involved, that's when I think people observe something like, whoa, like there's a third thing there. And what did it take to get that so that that kind of work was done? Or like, I see you doing like this cool quality thing that looks very different or very uncommon. And like, what does it take between people to have the space and the ability to do that third thing, which seems really important, like challenge your own assumptions or push your limitations or reach for something, or, you know, say I want something different in my life, or I want to design ahead or something. And so, yeah, in that regard, your ability to open up like the machine, right? Like while it's being built is kind of, this is on brand for you.
Yeah, that might be that. Okay, I wouldn't have thought to bring that up, but I think that might be a macro binding element here. So what I mean by that is, firstly, yes, I definitely resonate with a little bit of willingness on my part to ship things before they're perfect. The shadow assumption, the mirage there is that anything's perfect, you know? So we know from like behavior change stuff, there's a lot of people who are jammed up by seeking perfection, self-described perfectionists, a lot of justification around, procrastination and not executing in the world in the name of perfection. And that's just not real. And so I think I mentioned on a previous episode, for whatever reason, I don't believe in that. So I think I am willing to, put things in the world before they're perfect, because I don't think that day's coming. And okay, the macro binding thing was, I've observed that because there's such a hunger for freedom there, like a lot of people are not free there for themselves. So when they see it in the world, it feels interesting as a almost like permission slip type of like, wait a minute, like I don't think I could do that, so what's over there for me kind of thing. And seeing that vulnerability in the world, I think, is helpful. And I think people have seen us in tandem work through things publicly, whether it's like the book or I'm trying to think of other example, like you taking me through the immunity to change drill at the summit was a massive thing.
That's a good one.
You know, so yeah, I don't want to move on from that too quick. But I guess I'll say this, like part of the lead-in caveat, the environmental reasons for being here are, I think friendship is an interesting topic right now because of the loneliness epidemic that we're in. That is a real environmental thing that we're all experiencing. I think that something about the timeline of technology and then the inflection point of COVID and then how to get back to whatever friendship was before that is maybe a timely thing. So in general, I find that our generation is just not doing friendship that well. You layer on what we spoke about at brunch. Esther Perel, I think, was the first place I heard this, where, you know, the ineffective tendency now for adults to place almost like universal lifestyle responsibility on a romantic partner. Like the romantic partner has to check all of the sort of segments of our life, whereas like friendship can clearly take many of those reins, and now romantic partnerships are suffering because of that, and then friendships are obviously lagging behind. Anyway, up front, I just think it's helpful to like say some of these environmental things that would lead to someone being like, Cara or Logan, what are you guys up to? And like, why is that happening? And why don't I recognize that in my own life?
Yes.
Well,
and that's not just anecdotal, right? Like that's data driven. So I think the loneliness epidemic is one way it gets said, but it also gets measured in like the friendship recession, or like there's different studies out around people's ability to name how many people do you feel quite close to in your life or whatever. And it's like less than 5 for everybody. Or how many, contacts do you have, or like all the numbers have dropped. So you frame the question however you want. But how many people are involved in your life in a quality way is the lowest that it's ever been. And we can blame that on a lot of different things, proximity and travel, different styles of work, people changing careers often. You named a bunch of them, COVID, all those kinds of things, regional. So there's like a sociological problem statement here, I think. Right. And then what follows that sort of demographic problem, if you will, is a psychological problem. And so it becomes an inner experience. So if the external experience is actually true, factually true, people have less contacts, people are less locally involved, or even just regionally like affiliated, or right. Those facts are on decreasing, and our psychological kind of reality is that we're discovering what the benefits of those were, because now they're lower. And so how do we then go reverse engineer? We're not going to say, I think so. Actually, I think some people did, they bought 7 houses in a row somewhere in the US, a bunch of friends, they bought 7 houses in a row. They all moved there and they're like, we're going to do this thing where we're going to work on our friendships and they're going to stay here forever together. And then, the punchline was something went wrong, or somebody had a job opportunity, or somebody wanted to move where their aging parent was, and the thing kind of broke down. And so, so we're not saying that, we're not saying let's be next door neighbors. Did we just become best friends?
But stay away from my drum set.
Yes, exactly. So, but if those things are our context, then what do we have on offer to try to practice to address at least our experience of that in the world, our experience of lack of, or the desire for, whichever way we want to frame it. How do we meet that moment?
Right. So I guess as you reflect on our friendship, if that's going to be part of the model of this conversation, or a reason to talk about I don't want to say model like we've figured something out, but
it's an illustration.
Okay. I stand corrected.
It's good to offer illustrations from your own life, because people can connect there. And also,
so what's interesting, I think what's challenging about this conversation, if I just speak for myself, you can coach me up if that's what happens. Okay. So I officially agree. This is me coming out agreeing that there's a developmental friendship that we have, probably.
Okay.
And that is unique. And I get it when someone reaches out to you and asks, what is that? Define it, teach me how, or something like that. That's not out of left field for me. There's something that I'm I understand what they're saying when I do that. Okay. What's interesting about this conversation, or challenging about this conversation, is I don't even know if the goal of the end of this podcast is to be da, 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 and then you can too. It's maybe that is. But the challenge is we sort of are trying to name a thing that has transpired and is transpiring already. When I first met you, there wasn't a sit down that was like 3, 2, 1, go. We are starting developmental friendship now, right? And so blood brothers, sisters.
Yes, exactly.
So is that worth looking at from a design perspective? Or it's sort of what we were talking about at brunch, and maybe we would just rehash it right here, which is like, how do we navigate the what to do about what people have just heard on this podcast? Do I go and call up Gary? Gary, it's me, Bob from around the way. Do you want to be developmental friends?
Listen to this podcast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do the thing.
You know,
okay.
So is this the kind of thing that just ensues from a certain type of behavior? Because what we're sort of getting at is, I think you and I think that this can be done on purpose, or we wouldn't be having the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So what comes up as I say that? Because we are doing it, but it wasn't really until recently that we've said words like developmental friendship in that order. You know, like, I think part of, let me just sort of like answer my own non-question. It's like part of what brings us together is the idea of development. You made the joke at the leadership lab gathering that if you were my professor in insert subject, that I would have like ran with that.
Quantum mechanics.
Yeah. Mathematics or whatever. Thank God that wasn't the course you were teaching.
Pattern linguistics.
When we met. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So is that sort of like the starter kit, that we are in awareness of development, and that's what we talk about, and that's what we do? So, you know, I don't know. I guess, how do we coach someone up to try this better?
I think I'll touch on one of our most recent experiences to send us back to the beginning. Okay. So maybe it is quantum, I don't know. But okay. That in the Sahara, in our workshop program, our non-program program kind of thing, one of the questions that was really gripping, I think, for me, but also for you, yes, it was, what is it that you're longing for? So you sort of like have all of this in life, whatever that is, like good work, a good life, you know, safety. And so, like, what's the longing that remains in you? And you must have imagined that, like, there was still a longing in your life at around 40-ish years old, that would invite you out to go take another experience or take another cut at addressing, you know, what's more for me. And so whether it's like, I'm a CEO, you know, like, it's not my full identity, there's more for me. Or like, I was formerly this and now I'm in transition, there's probably more for me. Or my quality of life, I think I have a hunch that it could be better. And so how do I get involved in that? And so that question, that's sort of like, what are you longing for? Or what's a desire that you can find that might drive you or just nudge you incrementally towards growing? That can you discover that kind of the answer to that kind of a question, or one of the answers? And then can you expose that, like, in the world? And so I think the answer to that is like, yes, and that's very productive to do. And not many people are enrolled in doing this, in figuring out, like, what am I after? And what does it, like, say about me? And so I would say one of the entry points, if that's what we're looking for, is to discover, like, what is it I'm longing for? And that doesn't mean it has to be what I'm not getting, or like what I'm, you know, what I failed at getting or something, or what people haven't done for me lately. You know, that's not a blame game thing. Yeah. It's actually a lot harder than that, which is to claim what you really want and need to experience. So if for me, what I believe is like, yes, fundamentally, like poets are really good at like describing this. Like I'm my own house of belonging. And that sounds like so good. Mm-hmm. Like I'm my own house of belonging. Like I belong with me, you know? Yeah, and it's like, also I live in the world, and also like I'm so very human, and I want to belong in other ways. Like I want people to see me and to love me and to value me, and I want to bring something that makes a difference, and I want to have a quality of life that's, you know, worth it. Mm-hmm. And my stories about myself like are really ultimately not very good. And therapy can help me, you know, like get after some of those stories. But also like I'm paying a therapist, you know, to kind of work on me, and or like a body worker or like a massage therapist or something. But it seems very, very tale as old as time to say, are there companions for answering the question, like, where do I belong? Like, to whom do I belong? And that sounds kind of primal. Mm-hmm. And I think it is. And so, like, I want to belong. I mean, for someone to say, like, hi, I'm Cara. Like, I want to belong to myself, yes, but also to other people. And that feels like really something good to discover. And so, but like, that's different than like, I want a developmental friendship. It's like, okay, for what? What will that make possible for you? Yeah.
Where are we headed?
It's like, well, okay, I don't think if developmental friendship is the answer, like what was the question? Or something. So it's not like a trend or like, well, there's a loneliness epidemic, I should get some developmental friends.
Right.
So I think it's different to go discover once you have an understanding of yourself as a person, and you do to the best of your ability, like a good job at cleaning up your side of the street. Yeah. Like it's not going to be enough. Like,
yeah. So. Yeah. The Morocco trip is an interesting illustration, right?
Okay.
Because as you say that, it's like, why did we go there? You know, like it wasn't to see the sand. Like I've already been there.
I know you had already been. Yeah,
I mean, that's true. And you weren't going there to like check off a destination on your passport.
No.
I personally, this is weird to say on the developmental friendship podcast, but I wasn't like looking for new friends necessarily, you know? And so this longing thing seems on a hotter, colder thing. It seems like hotter. It seems like maybe where we're headed, and someone who's listening is likely longing for something that is not resolved by what's present. I guess maybe this brings up a dynamic we were talking about earlier in trying to sort this out, which was like, is the mechanical setup of friendship really well suited for this? Like, you know what I mean? You mentioned all the classics and the stories, and it's been a story as old as time. Like, can friendship transcend these time bounds, class bounds, whatever? And that maybe family isn't the answer. Your family of origin isn't the answer. You sort of like leave the house. Your parents aren't in that role like forever, and maybe a spouse isn't that role, and your kids, they change age all the time, and that role changes. And you know, so is friendship this unique container for that which we long for? Is interesting.
It is, because it's kind of like you've said before, like if evolution, let's say, is the momentum or the inertia, then we're curious about like how we're evolving. And so, you know, let's call it development. Okay. Now we're thinking developmentally about how we're evolving or how we're meeting different challenges or different inputs or external contexts or something, how we come to meet those things. Okay, well, for you, like fitness has been a vehicle for doing developmental things and studying evolution and development. And that's been, you can do that first person work. You can do that with other people by coaching them. And having it be this layered thing. I'm not just, coaching these drills. I'm also trying to figure out kind of who you are and how we push that too, and add weight to the bar, like as it were. And so is friendship similar, maybe is part, I could re-ask the question, like, is that similar? Is it a vehicle for understanding where we're going developmentally or what evolution is like? Or, and so, and if it is, how uniquely is it suited for that? So that, maybe I'm asking you, like, is it essential, to have companionship on the way, or is it another vehicle for studying, developmental things?
Right. Yeah. I think one of the attributes, again, like I'm just riffing live with you on this, one of the attributes of friendship, and we can, again, use you and I as an illustration. I'm using the right word there. Wink, illustration. Wink, wink. Is time. Remember we were talking about time. So friendship can, as long as it's going well, traverse many seasons of life. Which this will bring up a potential counter argument to what we're saying, which
maybe we like those.
Yeah, we can we just to put a pin in competition for later.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think there's a lot to talk about here because our relationship started in a specific dynamic, professor-student power dynamic that then transitioned into, I don't know how, it's not like the day after I graduated, I would be like, my friend Cara, who's no longer my professor, right? And so that sort of develops later as just more or less staying in touch kind of thing. But I think what's worth saying, because I think a lot of folks listening are gonna be able to resonate with the truth of friendship, which is sometimes they fade away, sometimes they go away, sometimes we have friends for a lifetime. Like, what is that whole dynamic? And you and I have, I think, uniquely communicated well, largely from your leadership, on the changing dynamics of what is present. Okay, so you're my professor, I'm the student, we both play the role, move on from there. Oh, you're a person who was a big part of a certain period of my life, fond memories, I express gratitude, we stay in contact. Maybe that's starting to look more like a regular friendship with less power dynamics. And then I start kind of reaching for more in the friendship to the point where I hire you to coach me. And then now that's a new level of complexity. And I'm breezing through different iterations and eras of our friendship really quickly, but just to give context. So then it's like we leave the temporarily paid structure thing to return back to quote unquote a more normal power balance thing. And then life keeps going, and I change the content of the Hold the Standard Summit to include a lot of the developmental things that I've learned through you over the years. And then you come into that, I invite you into that arena to sort of co-teach with me. And then you make a choice to like subordinate yourself in an environment that you definitely don't have to because you're my teacher, but you're like, no, you're the point on this lecture and I will support. And we talk about that overtly. Like, this is, I will play this role. I will play this role. And that seemed pretty advanced, you know, and then we do that and then leave that dynamic, you know, and it just evolves is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
And so far we have moved through these different ebbs and flows of roles and power dynamics and like maturation in a way that I think is worth stating as a part of doing this thing well.
Yeah.
You know, and there's one other thing I want to say about that. This challenge in relationships, and this happens in romantic relationships too, which is like, isn't kind of the tough part. Like, how are we gonna continue to grow in a place that keeps us in the same orbit? You know, so I guess selfishly in this conversation, I'm sort of wondering if it's helpful for us to volley a little bit on what we got from each other in those different things. Not that this is like meant to be like a transactional thing, because one of my questions, this is just an honest question that's coming up live and I've never asked you, is like, I wonder, I don't know how to say this right, like what was in it for you kind of thing, you know? Because I felt like I really benefited the whole way as like, oh, I'm just like getting all this cool stuff by being your friend, you know what I mean? And so is that a dynamic, or, you know, as someone who's trying to do this, like one of the questions that was asked at breakfast was like, is part of this developmental friendship idea mutual benefit?
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yep, totally.
So like what comes up as I say all that? That was a shotgun of like 10,000 things. But
I know, but it's all around kind of like a bullseye around we're aiming here.
Yeah. And the audience is just tolerating the fact that we're just completely fucking making this up. All right.
This is definitely that.
Yeah. All right.
But so the first thing I would say is, I think, again, this is a meta observation of just your ability to be generous and vulnerable about your thinking or your sense making about how you've, you know, moved through a friendship and like how generous that is. And like, I also think, you know, most people don't take that considerate of a lens on the relationships in their life and how they've moved through these different seasons and like who have they been in each of these times, and what is it that we're exchanging, and so I want to say thank you for that, because it's really, I think it's a really special thing. And then I'll pick up the play on the power in a relationship and how unique it is for people to make the power that exists available, and to make that really normal to talk about, like who's got more power, and the really sort of obvious do no harm comment that should probably be stated here as like a mandated reporter in the world or whatever is that power often is abused. And so when power is not available to examine, and it's not available to change or shift because the people involved haven't done their own work around their own sense of being powerful and about having power, and the different roles that we have in the world or that we take up, when that doesn't happen, it's not that power isn't there. It's that power like then goes to work and it's at play and it's underground and so
when it's not stated.
Yes.
Yeah. You not to derail this, but just to really double click on that.
Okay.
You modeled that to me first, and I know what you mean, which is I really know from our experience that stating the power dynamic in an overt way is really high utility, really helpful, really it's an insurance policy against a lot of like dynamics, you know, and that shows up in a work environment, you know, and just to do a vulnerable share as well,
Yes.
which is like,
Go. Yeah,
I've said this not in a condescending way or like a jabby way, but it is pretty overt around here where like a real sentence I've said in this community is like, I know I haven't had a genuine interaction with a person in this property in my life. And like, it's important to say that, not from like a, you liars or whatever. It's just like, when I walk in the room, people get quiet and they get different. And every person I've ever talked to here has been on their best behavior. And like, we got to be able to say that.
Yes.
You know? So
your choice to acknowledge that is actually a more powerful move because it unleashes more potential. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of removes an obstacle, or it, as far as it depends on you, it frees up more authentic interaction or the actual work that you want to do. And so it doesn't have to be sweet. It doesn't have to be cute. It doesn't, have to be soft or whatever. But like, hey, if we're all together in this organization trying to do a thing and serve other people or make money or whatever that is, then let's try to remove the obstacles to doing that well, you know. I'm going to pause for a sec.
I saw it come up.
I only rip that off every third episode.
Feel like it's still gonna fall, but just be mindful of the mic.
Okay. You okay on space? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, wait, just like side note, I feel like that's really powerful for you to say that.
What, did I rip the...
No, that...
What did you say? Oh, yeah. Okay.
For you to be able to say that, and like, is also like a pinnable, I think it's like a pinnable moment just for us, because it's like to go there, because like you constructed that.
What, the ability to say that? Or
no, you constructed the fact that every time you come here, you're not going to have a genuine interaction, truly.
Yeah.
Like you built that.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's not really for the podcast.
Yeah, that's tough. That's true. Yeah, that's like, tough.
Like, I love you, and we could do that.
Yeah, you can do a therapy thing.
No, on a therapy.
Sure.
No, we're gonna sit on it together.
Okay.
Like we.
I mean,
that was interesting.
That's a Johan said that yesterday, which is like, we are creating a reality for our own control or something.
You are building for the experience that you want to have or don't want to have.
Yeah.
So you're controlling for that. So you're designing for that. And so I'm just saying, like, I love you and you designed that. And so it's like, even if it just happened today, like, whoa. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I love you. And I just heard you say it, like, say what you said underneath what you said. Right. So I just love you. Okay.
Well, I espouse to say that I don't like that, but I made it. So
see, that's what I'm saying.
That's
where
we gotta get working.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so we can start again now.
Yeah.
Take your drink. Take your drink. But I think I did want to say, it's an experiment and it requires some courage to name the positions we're in, or like the roles that we're in relative to the task we're undertaking. And that sounds way too technical, but saying, hey, because I was your professor, and because you were in the role of student, we had a thing, and where you asked me questions, and then, I give you answers because I have some sort of, extended knowledge on something you're curious about. Yeah. And after you graduated, that looked like, hey, can you send me book recommendations?
Yeah, okay, that's what it was.
Right?
Yeah.
So it was like kind of a extension of like, hey, I need another
more
syllabi. And more of the same.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so there was an experimental time there where, I mean, I had a hunch, so I, kind of ran a little bit of an experiment. It's like, we could do this for a long time, and
recommender.
And we did. And listen, like, I've never known anyone to consume the amount of information that you did consume. And that I mean, I have no qualm saying, like, you have my entire doctoral program in you now, because literally everything I did, like, I gave it and you just took it and did it. Yeah. And so, but
a lot cheaper that way.
That was way cheaper than my thing. Congratulations, you win.
I gotta change my email signature.
Yes, you should. Yeah. Okay, well, I called you like Dr. G for like a reason, but at some point saying, look, we're only going to be able to run this out so far, because now we're reading the same things. Mm-hmm. And now you're sending me things to read. Mm-hmm. And okay, that's fun. Okay. And maybe we should visit and like eat barbecue at Clutch. Right. And maybe we should say, whoa, cool. Like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh, like, you're making application. Oh, well, what are you doing? Oh, I'm in this organization. And so then it's like, well, can we say what's true right now? It's like, I think, are we becoming friends? Like, do I no longer work for you?
Right.
And because I did, even though I was the professor, like, I kind of worked for you. So you were paying USD and you got me. Mm-hmm. And then when you were no longer, or USD was paying you somehow. Anyway, okay. Yeah. But once that exchange was no longer true, can we say what's no longer true? And then can we choose what might be true next? Mm. And so that's where I get to say, I think I've fulfilled on that role. Right. That, USD, invited me to, and that you engaged with me in. I feel like I fulfilled on that. And so now what is there? Because that role was really meaningful to me. And so when you say, like, well, what was the exchange? What were you getting? And I'm like, can you imagine being me in my job and you walk in? Like, it was amazing, right? So it's not like I worked and I had this one student ever that was amazing. I loved my job. It was super meaningful. Lots of interesting students coming from all different places. And so the way that I took up students was to try to be more and more intentional about it over time and all of that. And you moved into my life at that point. And so we have this unique experience. But then when we're out of those roles, how do we continue some like measure of that experience, but also recognize the fact that, like, I don't work for you anymore. Yeah. And I actually don't want to. Yeah. So how is it that we could keep learning from each other or learning together? So if we like the practice of learning together, which we did, then what needs to be said so that you get invited to show up a little differently and I get the permission and invitation to show up a little differently, so that now we're going to learn together. And let's see if that's as much fun or maybe more fun than you learning from me. Right. And it turns out, yes, it was, because mutuality is always more fun than transactional. And so then it's like our ability to be like, wow, we both read this thing about mutuality. Like, I think, can we like observe it and what's happening and our enjoyment of what's happening? And it's like, oh yeah, like, can we put a stake in the ground there? I think we're doing this mutuality thing, and like, okay, how do we do more of that? So I guess in response to how do you make the power stances available, and then how do you also make them adaptable so that you're willing to take up more power and I'm willing to, put down, you allow me to put down more power. I think, side note, like, sometimes the DNA of the initial thing exists and persists.
Okay.
So even yesterday when you're like, you were acknowledging me, which you're the finest in the world at honoring and acknowledging people in your life or the influence of others in your life. You're world class at that. That something in me is like, somehow like, you gotta let me put some of that down. Okay. So it's like, but it will require you to pick more up.
Right.
But like, in front of people.
Yeah. You don't like when I do that.
No, I just notice it.
Yeah.
And so, and like, I have like tears. Like, it's cool because it's available, but it's sort of risky.
Yeah. And I know it's available. I think part of, what makes our relationship beautiful is I'm also in observation of, maybe you are more in control of what's happening than I am, probably, or something like that, or knowing or whatever. But like, I'm kind of just like, this is crazy awesome. Like, is anybody else seeing, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like best friends with a genius who used to be my professor, and like, we are insane. When we were in Morocco, it's like the jokes about the tent, the jokes like, are you guys gonna be like this the whole time? Like, shut up. And then so I don't know, like, part of our conversation on this podcast is like distilling down a thing that maybe could be replicated in the world, but like, there's so many, I don't want to say confusing, but unique dynamics that I think we just are navigating in an interesting way that makes it an interesting illustration.
Yes.
Like the gender dynamic, the money dynamic, the authority dynamic, all these things, and so.
But you're doing, I think you're doing a good job, and I want to do a good job too of trying to find the transferable things. And so if making the power in the relationship available could be one of these things.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So
that anybody can do.
Bolts. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Power,
like,
dynamic.
How do we make that available together?
Okay. Yeah.
And like, we can fumble it.
Yep.
And it sure as heck is going to be incremental. Like, you're not going to just go full on with that.
Yeah.
But I think there is something there. And I think that's unique. I don't hear a lot of people talk about what's the power dynamic here. Like, we used to work together, but now I'm promoted to a manager. And it's like, well, shoot, now I'm the manager of the people I used to be colleagues with. So like,
we can't drink together anymore. Or
right. Or
like,
can we? Or like, what are the rules? And it's like, well, a lot of organizations do it a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But when I am inside of organizations trying to help them talk about authority, power, positions, roles, influence, I don't see it done very well. And so that's a conversation like I have the privilege of inviting people to. Like, okay, that's interesting. You were colleagues. Like, you shared a lot of status. You were similar status in the organization, let's say. And all of a sudden, now you're reviewing people that you were colleagues with. And like, hey, we were complaining about how the reviews go, and now here we are. Like, can we just take a deep breath and be like, well, this is hard. So I've got this authority, or I've got this power now in our relationship from the organization. So how are we going to deal well with this? Right. So like, there's an invitation here. Can we do this well? If not, there's likely some sort of instrument or some sort of document, I'll just say, that you can triangulate the work to, and like, that'll navigate the difficulty probably. But there may be a rare instance where it takes you somewhere, and because you were willing to make the power dynamic available. And I don't think you have to be the one who became the manager. I think you can be the one that was the colleague and be like, what's my most honest way of coming to something that's quite obvious, which is things just changed. And so we're going to do some different tasks, and you're going to have more power in those tasks than I do. And in fact, your power is going to really have an influence on my livelihood. and my quality of life at work. And so can we go there? And so if the answer is yes, then great. So I think there's something there that's like, oh, like if we had a whiteboard, we could just bullet point, like maybe that's like power, making power available.
So, we've landed on a thing.
Yeah, there's
right
something
now
there.
That seems like acknowledging power dynamic. A lot of the kind of techniques we've talked about that you've deployed in a consulting environment do involve interesting ones that I've seen have involved these acknowledgments of who's picking up and putting down power, who's absolving power in a changing dynamic. And that seems to be a theme. So like, can you make more of what's present explicit in a friendship? We're putting a pin in that. I mean, it's like, I think it's a Heifetz thing. The 4 conversations. Is that a Heifetz thing? Every organization's having 4 conversations.
Oh, okay.
The explicit conversation, which is where the money's at. And then the second conversation is the conversation before the conversation. So that's like the Slack that you send to your colleague that you won't ever say in the meeting, but you'll say with your colleague before. The third conversation is the one that you'll say after the meeting. The
meeting after the meeting.
The meeting after the meeting. Yeah. Like, all right, any questions? Any comments? No questions, comments. And then immediately
See you in the
after.
parking lot.
Yeah. Immediately after, can you believe that fucking guy?
Yeah.
Q4 is going to be a shit show. And you're like, you didn't say that in the meeting. And then the fourth conversation, everyone who's worked with me is rolling their eyes because I talk about this ad nauseum. But the fourth conversation is the conversation that you're only having in your head. So that's interesting from like, you know, the punchline is a higher performing organization would make conversations 2 through 4 more explicit. So what we're kind of arriving at is a more developmental friendship would be able to acknowledge the unspoken power dynamics present in the thing. It might be interesting to talk about some of the common faults. That's like fitness language here, where like we've been workshopping this idea amongst friends, and then they'll chime in and be like, "Oh, it's like an accountability buddy."
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's play that.
It's like,
I'm good with that.
I get this. It's like you set goals together, and they hold you accountable to the goals.
Yeah,
and it's like,
exactly.
I don't know if that's it, or you know, the other friend was like, it's all about values. You know, it's not like aligning on values.
Yep.
You know, and so I guess what are some common misconceptions where like you know, if you're driving by a developmental friendship at 40 miles an hour, you're like, oh, that's, and you're like, you miss it. What's not a developmental friendship? It's not an accountability buddy. Right, it's not.
Well, you didn't hire them. Let's start with that. You didn't hire them to deliver on that because there's a foul there or fault, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, Logan, like that was such a cool thing I saw you do with your coach. And so like, let me go get that coach and see if they'll like do that thing with me. And there's a day for that, for sure. You want to go through ITC? You want to, you know, expand your developmental capacity? You want to do that? For sure. I got practitioners for you. Like, and I do that work. Like, it's great. We'll do it. But what is it you actually are observing, or like I was saying earlier, like what are you smelling that's like, ooh, what's cooking in here, you know? Because I don't think it's a hireable thing you're smelling. And
you can't hire a developmental friend.
No. And so don't make your therapist your developmental buddy, and you know, don't make your coach your developmental friend, and don't make your spouse your developmental friend. And like these people, they're delivering on different asks. So I think maybe the more common one would be, are there friendships that could like bear the weight? Sounds kind of negative, but like, are there friendships that could
have a ripeness for this maybe?
Yeah. That could incorporate this, or could like take this up, and that experimentation I think is probably incremental and is about running some experiments or testing some things, and it's about exposure. So you're going to be vulnerable to try to, look for that, I guess, or test for that. And that friendships that don't have that quality are great.
Yeah.
Like,
just different.
we don't need to go like now revise every friendship that we have and be like, can we be developmental? Like,
right. That was the other question. How many developmental friends can you have?
Or should you have?
Right.
To support a developmental life or whatever. It's like, okay, well, first of all, developmental is like a made up thing, like it's a theory, it's a pattern, it's an observation of the world that people go through these stages, and there's this momentum that feels evolutionary and feels beneficial and increases the quality of your life internally and externally. It's like, okay, yeah, those things. But not every friend needs to be developmental. Not every friend is interested in doing that. And so, I think this is an interesting question, because
what if it's, I don't want to cut you off if you have something here, but what if it is this longing that you declared earlier?
Yeah.
If we make this assumption that most everybody is longing for something, you would need enough self-awareness to know that you're longing for something. And then tying in the last concept that we had is can you be explicit about that, or more explicit about that? Because I think that I have a knowing about your longing in the world, and you might have a knowing about mine, and that is a binding agent that is maybe important here. And bringing that out of the assumption and onto the table is part of it, or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think I know that to be true for you, with you, and vice versa. And I'm just kind of scanning the people in my life and networks of friends, and maybe that is an unknown, unspoken thing, and that would be kind of, is there something there, or I don't know.
I know. I think I'm a little stuck on the point of trying to see if a friendship could be a vehicle for your own becoming is not because you're striving, or I'm a high performance person, I should get these high performance friendships, or I want to demonstrate to myself that this relationship has made a developmental shift in me, or something. And so it's I'm kind of feeling tempted to defend that that a friendship that supports your development is not necessarily responsible for the task of driving it. Yeah. So there's this companionship, or there's this intimacy of having the knowledge of someone's real longing and being the holder of that with them. And that feels loftier, or somehow more sacred than the people that push my development. Okay, so I think I was struggling there to kind of find what's the intersection or interplay between those things, because I sort of don't want to assign the friendship, with the task of developing us or something.
Yeah, I think that's key to say, especially just in the culture of podcasts, the culture of this whole thing.
Yes,
can be a bit of who's going to do what for my end result goal thing,
which is why I pushed on the thing of is it sharing goals? No. Is it accountability? I'm going to set a thing and you make sure I've done it every week? No.
Yeah.
That can happen, but
we've never really done that.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, and so it's sort of do you see who I'm becoming? Like, do you see how like I'm kind of fumbling there? Like I haven't yet like and that's why I think some of the concepts that get closest to this for me are the more like spiritual traditions or the more classical traditions around attending, being the attending, you know, with someone like on their way.
Yeah.
And that being like the soul friend is someone who helps you in the care of your soul and the keeping of your soul. And yes, that has an expression in the world, but it also has like a very different texture to it and purpose, because the care and keeping of your soul is a really difficult job. Yeah. And like we've been through seasons of that. It's like it can be a really depressing task to tend your own soul when you feel out of alignment or like your choices have caged you or something. And, or, you know, there's an identity that you have and you have a hunch that you probably need to shed that thing. And so who can tell you who you are without that thing, or who can just sit there and wait for you and wait with you to have that emerge? There's like a promise in there that just is not about like, this person like gets me to the next stage.
Yeah.
And this person really like kicks my ass. I guess there's some, you were saying like, what is it not or whatever. Yeah. And it's like, oh, it's the person that kicks my ass, you know, tells me the truth, the hard truths. Yeah. And, oh, I got to get back in gear, or, you know, like, hey, you really should be doing this in the world or whatever. And be like, oh yeah, I needed that ass kicking. Thank you. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about like when the world is kicking your ass, or when you're tempted to kick your own ass, like who will sit with you and say, hey, let's be fair here. And like, what's the part of you that needs keeping and care and maybe pruning and maybe, you know, growing or whatever. But I think that sort of soul friendship that permits you to do the development that you want to do, which is pushing your limitations, which is questioning your own assumptions. If that's what we're saying, like development is doing, it's bringing you sturdier and sturdier towards larger capacities, to hold bigger scope, to understand things with more complexity, to try to influence at a system level, not just your local level, or whatever the greatest aspirations of development, of a developmental existence are. Who is keeping you steady or sturdy in the midst of that, where even if you never pushed any farther than right now, that, like, you know, your soul is good.
Yeah.
And your sense of being is good. Or if you're stalling out on the feeling of progression around your becoming, like, who am I becoming? Like, am I any sort of, you know, more of a contribution than I was last year, like in a true way, can stay there with you, then I think this soul care, this soul friend, like, you know, one of our early experiences, which was like a little bit of a risk, was my invitation to go see David White, the poet, but he had his soul friend, John O'Donohue, with him. And I would say like John O'Donohue's body of work is like so much like grander and deeper and incredible even than David White's like poetry and development work. It's powerful. But like, guess what? His soul friend like was unbelievable. But what was he doing? Do you remember? He wasn't even on the billing, number one. But number two, do you remember at all what he was doing? Because I didn't really until I like revisited it back. He was playing the drum. He was drumming while David was doing poetry. So like, we were joking around about like being mistaken for each other's assistants, right? Yeah. Like, brother is the deepest thinker around soul care and soul friendship and philosophy of our soul in the world, and like, and the fact that he's deceased just like breaks my heart. But like,
he's like, I'll do the drums,
but I'll be your drummer. Like, what? That's the like So their Celtic thing is like Anam Cara, which is like soul, literally soul friend. But like, look at how they practiced it. Like, that's not just like a bromance.
Yeah.
Like, and they give credit to it. Like, their, interviews or their podcasts in the world, but like, I've never heard them talk about that exact thing. But you and I like witnessed that.
Yeah.
And so that's quite fascinating. Like, who will like stand up there and like beat the drum while you read your poems out loud? Like, I don't know. Like, it's so intriguing. And like you had the question earlier, like, what are we each getting out of this? And like, am I sure that you're getting out of it as much as I'm getting out of it, or something like that? Like, I don't think they were having that conversation. No. Like, what are you getting out of this? Being my drummer. I was like, it was an act of like soul attending. Like, you're out here, you're bearing your soul to the world, and in a really vulnerable way. And like, so I'm going to be on the side, and I'm going to be drumming the beat, like the heartbeat of the thing. So, I'm like right here while you're like bearing your heart to the world. And it's so we didn't get that, right? Like in the hall where we were watching them or whatever, like we weren't getting that.
That's what was present.
That's what was occurring.
And you've done that for me, like so much, that like, that's really, and I think that it's important that you've laid that out, because I think a mistake would be to an observer is like that our friendship is you telling me like chapter 11, is like, here's the notes, and
Logan, on to the next thing.
Yeah. And like I made the joke earlier. It's like, you don't even answer my questions.
I know. Sorry. That's infuriating.
You know what I mean?
That's
like,
kind of
no, but it's like a reflection. It's
that's
this
the
whole
infinite game.
This holding space, infinite game thing. We gotta. One of the things maybe as we kind of land this plane is maybe a counter argument of like, what is the sustainability of a developmentally oriented friendship? Because there's this warning that maybe, to your point, this could become competitive, and maybe it has a half-life.
Oh yeah, you're at the pin. We
got to go back to the pin.
Yep, that's
so
very
it's
important.
like,
I think it's good. It's really you go for that.
You start, if someone were to start with the premise of, I am going to create and build scaffolding for a developmental friendship, does that crash and burn in a process of unspoken competition, comparison, laddering up something?
I think I should like steal it back from you and be like, hey, like, will you talk about that? Like, because I think, yes, I mean, there's that, and I don't have that worked out. But I think you and I both have observed, and you and I have both participated in other collaborations or other partnerships, or let's call it like co-authoring a project or a business or an initiative or something, where it felt like we're doing this well, like we're conscious people, and we set up the partnership and we're practicing it in a gracious way, and like it's mutual, and we're giving and we're taking and we're compromising and we're doing this well, and it still suffered some sort of like either one big time wound or small cuts over time around what are we competing for, or is there something we're competing for, or is somebody winning here, or if I'm not, am I sort of frustrated that you are, or like a little resentments or something that have come in. And so I think it's a question for you from me to say, will you help me understand like what role does competition or hidden competition and a lack of being able to really deal well with that in partnerships or collaborations, like is there a role there that is destructive or detrimental, and if so, are we willing to kind of like go there? Like, can we speak into that?
Yeah. I mean, I think collaboration between two people around anything, whether it's as wholesome as a friendship or as ripe for competition as a business partnership, that I observe hidden competition can corrupt a otherwise espoused to be upward spiral developmental thing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's hard to like give specific examples. So it's like Billie Eilish and what's her brother's name? The guy Finnegan. Yeah, I think about them a lot.
Oh, me too.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so they're like a duo.
Uh-huh.
Who's to say what percentage each person contributes, but it's like, let's just say it's exactly somehow 50%.
Yeah.
She gets to be impossibly famous, can't go anywhere or whatever. And
Correct.
Finnegan could be standing right there. I wouldn't even know it. And like, what comes up with
Phineas.
With that? Phineas.
Yeah,
that's
we
right.
didn't even get his name right.
Finnegan,
See, to our point.
Yeah. Who is that guy? So that you can imagine, it's like, are they in therapy? You know?
Yeah,
It's
right.
like, are they discussing the power dynamics of fame and credit? And, you know, I've heard interviews with them at the same time, and surely he's not invited to most interviews. And how does that feel? And what does that do over time? And all of that. And so, yeah, it's, I mean, all of this is bathing in like the sort of hilarious pessimistic perspective that I can take on, which is like, how do any of us get along at all for an extended period of time based on how different we are and the complexity of things.
Like, is there a virtue there or something? Like developing the virtue. I don't know, maybe this is like a fantasy or something, but like developing the virtue of like equanimity or something, or like, you know, indifference or something, you know, like what's the virtue, or is there one there? Or
I think that the overused word, but I think that the perspective that you either have to nurture and build for the first time, or that you live and embody already, which is this like abundant thing where you can perceive a world where there isn't a fixed pie that needs to be divided a certain number of ways, is helpful. But you know, this is a compensation, I think, but a lot of times duos survive because one person yields. What's his name? Phineas?
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like Phineas has yielded, right? He's been like, I don't want that. You know, I was just meeting with some folks who are starting a business, and one of the partners has yielded, like, I want to own less of this. I want to have this role, whatever, you know, and not to put this on you, like speak for you, but in some of our projects, you come right out and you're like, I'm yielding. I want to be supporting role.
Okay.
So maybe that's something.
Yes.
Where, you know, the likelihood that two hard chargers who want the tip of the spear are never going to run into this fiery death of competition is, you know, that's like.
Okay. Yes. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I got a spark. So maybe if we're looking at desire, okay, if there's a longing or a desire that is like ambition, because I think you don't have competition unless you have sort of this root desire of like ambition, like I'm trying to get somewhere. And so we can argue later about how to figure out if that's quality or if that's shadowy or what, I don't know, but let's assume some clean ambition. And so you, like you say, you've got two killers or something who are going to come into a project together and work to collaborate. And if they can make power available, like we've set out is some sort of, principle or something. And then now they want to be creative, which, you need a lot of freedom to be able to really be creative. Then how do we subordinate like our own ambitions, tendencies or feelings or dreams to the thing?
Yeah.
So that it isn't that we're yielding it to one another. So one way maybe of doing that is like looking at the thing, which is why I was saying that kind of earlier today, like real work surfaces like real ways to grow, and like being theoretical about it all the time, like it sort of isn't enough of a rub to surface these things like ambition and like what do we do with that and stuff. But a piece of real work or like an actual task or project or something, like it helps to surface it. And maybe this is why, because then you and I can look at a thing like, okay, we're going to deliver a workshop. And the desire for the workshop is we want people to learn and encounter themselves in a different way or try on some different tools that we believe are beneficial for them, but also for the world. And so, okay, so that's the purpose. Then now let's talk about our roles, like the power that we have to impact the success of this thing. I certainly know I have some power and authority. I certainly know you have some power and authority. So, okay, so let's work that and figure out what the right balance is for this purpose. Yeah. So it's like
for the third thing.
For the third thing, is it fit to use?
Yeah.
So, like I know, right? Like having an expert come in the room and teach the framework is helpful sometimes. It is useful sometimes. People can learn from that. With us and that task, it didn't seem like it was quite fit to use for that to be the case. And if the only reason we were doing that was for you to honor me, then it's not good enough.
It wasn't fit for the third thing.
It wasn't.
Yeah, it was fit for me. Or
it was.
That's a Rick Rubin thing too, where he's talking about, he's a music guy, but so it's like you want to create a creative dynamic where the best idea wins for the thing that you're making.
Okay.
Like you don't want your idea to win. You want the best idea to win.
Yeah.
For the
yeah.
thing. And so I guess in our conversation for today, it's like, could the third thing be the friendship?
Okay.
Because it's not always, or it's not always like we don't have an album to make all the time.
No, I know.
Right. And so, and which gets important because sometimes the ego is like, I could do this myself. It's like, and then I think of Oasis and it's like, you can't be Oasis without the brother. Yep. And you guys can't even be in the same room together. So there's no Oasis. Like, great job. Can you guys sort this out?
Yeah. And everyone's asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, the 1975 does the same thing. So just to continue that reference.
Are they jammed up?
No, they actually have said from the very start, like, we're the four of us. So it doesn't matter who's singing, who's on bass, who wrote that drum riff, who had that piano solo or whatever. And like, we'll invite other people to the foursome, but not to ever be in the foursome. So the music, the thrust, the identity is the four of us. Yeah. And it's never not going to be the four of us. And they directly call out the Oasis guys. They're like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. Like, you had a thing.
Everyone lost because of that.
Yes. And they would say, directly, well, I think it was George Daniels, but maybe Maddie Healy, they would say directly, that was the greatest band of our generation. But like, they totally biffed it.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we may not be the greatest band in our generation, but like, we're not going to biff it that way.
Yeah.
And I would argue that they are the best band going right now in the whole world. But regardless, I think there probably is something to the agreement they have as a foursome that they will subordinate, their power, let's say, to the third thing, which is the 1975 arbitrarily named. But it's like, it is a thing. It has a life and it's doing something in the world, even if it's just participating in expression and art. Yeah. It's so the commitment. Yeah. So I think that's fair to say that the commitment is to the thing that's in the world, to get something that's more than the sum of its parts, is a cuter way to say it. But, and that kind of loops back to the request for something like this, like a conversation that you and I would have, or have, if we have anything to say about, is there a quality of relationship, friendship that enables us to develop on in a unique way? And are there ways to invest uniquely, differently over time in a relationship like that for the sake of our own development? And is it worthwhile to be generous about trying to talk about that, to share it?
Yeah, I think the request externally from other people for us to talk about this feels like really nice. It feels like a validation of like how you are to me and I am to you. And I think what we arrived in, or where we arrived with that sort of last sentiment, reminds me a little bit of these 5 perceptual positions that I keep coming back to a lot, which is like a helpful frame to deal with conflict or taking on perspective or negotiation or just dealing with another person or a group of people. And it takes me to the 4th perceptual position. So first one is yourself. So your perspective from self. Second perceptual position is that of other. So not putting yourself in their shoes, but you being in their shoes as them. Third perceptual position is this outside observer. But the 4th perceptual position is that of the group. Mm-hmm. So it gives agency and a perspective to what we were calling the third thing. So I think one thing that we've done is we've said that our friendship is a named thing that we can be in service of. And when you do that, it allows it to have needs and desires and its own perspective. And then us individually can subordinate ourselves or step forward or honor the thing or whatever because it's a named thing. So I'm saying that in some sort of stretch effort to offer something to anyone who's still listening to this conversation.
Well, yes, I can't worry about that right now, but
okay. Don't worry.
I'm not worried about you if you're not here. But what is it for the sake of? Because I think that gives us that is also a third thing, which if we can step into that sort of perspective or perception of like, what are we good for? Mm-hmm. Like, we know it's good for each other. Mm. Like, we're convinced of that. And we reinvest because it is beneficial to us. But who else is it for the sake of, or who else could benefit, or could it be on behalf of? Not because we're so benevolent or something, but just it adds a layer of meaning to the pursuit of it, because it's not a convenient thing to reinvest over time, over decades. I mean, we're kind of coming up on 2, which is like crazy. Okay, yes, but like that's not because it's convenient or because we're neighbors or something. Mm-hmm. It's how do we? I mean, I like your positions there, your perceptual positions, because I think adding another layer of purpose or contribution or multiplication of it is very fractal kind of, which is great. It's like it nests it in something more. Mm-hmm. And so therefore it gives it actually more material for us to like keep after it and to make it something worthy of not just living, but also extending, because like whatever it is that is a fragrance to others, I do want them to have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our most generous place, how do we put away the story of like, I don't know, like we're friends, like we're working at it. We're nobody, compared to anyone else or something. And we put that away and we just sort of like move forward, kind of fumble it a bit and be like, yeah, like it's a thing, like it's something. And if it's a fragrance, that you feel like addresses something in you that's hungry and thirsty, like, come on, like give it a try, like extend yourself some of these ways. And like, not everyone's going to be responsive to you. And like, don't call us, because I mean, I don't think we're jerks, but like, don't call us. Like we're in the thing. So it's not like, I mean, I was saying to you earlier, like, we don't need more friends. We just want to keep at the practice of friendship. And I think that's the message to people. Like, I don't think you need more friends or different friends or whatever, but I think you probably could use some investment in your practice of friendship for your life. And that may meet you where you're longing. And we haven't even like said even the word, but like, I think love is like a really powerful force in the world. And we've been seeking it like since we took a breath. And so how do we just like love each other better? And that's not cute. Like, it's not about keeping the peace. It's not about complimenting each other or celebrating our wins or, being there in the bad times or something. It's like, no, how do you actually love someone in a way that allows them to become more of who they are? And that's such a privilege and such a daunting thing. And yet I would like to be able to say, of my life to you that like, I want to do that. And there are people that in my life, I think that I didn't choose that come in to context or whatever. But someone said this morning at brunch, like your friends or the people closest to you are God's apology, like for your family and your neighbors. And I was like, I laughed like a little too hard.
That's so nice.
Like it's not a knock on my family. It's not a knock on my neighbors, but like, you are God's like answer and apology, to me for the context I find myself in. And you're not the only one, but you certainly are that. And so I would like to say on God's behalf, I apologize to you for the people you didn't choose, and thank you for receiving me.
Thank you. Well, I love you.
I love you.
It feels like source material. It feels like I am able to become more of myself because of being with you and knowing you, and that presence is something that I've been fortunate enough and drafting behind, and whatever that is, I'm actively, openly exploring that with you, and I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you for listening to a very important and tender conversation for me with Dr. Cara Miller. Our next week's episode is with another inspiring person in my life, Alex Vespestead. Not to bury the lead, but Alex Vespestead is a young, hungry creator living in the Midwest and moves across the country to sort of stick his foot in the door out here in Hollywood and Los Angeles, and quickly becomes one of the most prolific podcast producers of original short form content in the world. I remember opening up my phone and seeing his podcast, number 1, Joe Rogan's podcast, number 2, and that remarkable transformation has a lot of lessons to learn from. So we'll sit down with Alex next time we're on the show. And until next time, please like and subscribe to the show. That really helps us out. And if you're curious about growing your leadership capacity, head on over to holdthestandard.com with all of our resources to do just that. Thank you.